Have you ever had a favorite archetype that you don't even bother playing with anymore? You've played every single card in the archetype with as much innovation as you can manage, but there's simply nothing left to do? This is when you go to the Konami Facebook page and demand for some new support for your theoretical deck that seems to be getting the shaft, yes? Well, Konami doesn't care about your ritual beast, so you've got to turn to one of two options. Either try to find anime support cards, or make custom cards and be cemented as the weird one, even among Yu-Gi-Oh fans, for the rest of your life for making this abomination. In all seriousness, if you've ever wondered what your favorite archetype could be, or is working towards, looking to the anime is a good bet on getting the general idea. Yes, most cards change, but they still retain the spirit of their effects, like how Shockmaster still locks down, and Gumblar still eats hands like an excited pug. If you ever wanted to know where your favorite archetype could go someday, check the anime, or even better, just keep watching this video. Granted, if we go the route of watching this all the way, we'll only be talking about support you hope doesn't take up a card slot in any pack because they're either all go up against the idea of the archetype, or are genuinely and generally awful at doing anything productive at all. These are the top 10 worst anime exclusive support cards. Kicking things off is a card from Zexal's Kite for his Photon deck. Weird how, because of Arc 5, we have to differentiate between two characters with the same name and personality. The equipped spell, Photon Wing, can only be equipped to a Photon monster, and once per turn, you can target one Xyz monster you control, detach all of its Xyz materials to let the Photon equipped gained attack by the rank of the Xyz, times 200, and power to attack directly that turn. Okay, so putting aside the fact that the most buff you'd get out of this in a proper Photon or Galaxy deck is a 1600 attack buff, maybe 18 with a rank 9 that you only summon to meme on your opponent. It's a decent card, all things considered? No, it isn't. It's just not something that Photons in particular would ever want to run unless they want a cowboy-style game ender, which is, not what you need in Photons under any circumstance. If you wanted to end the game with a big beatstick, you already have multiple monsters within the archetype that have 4,000 attack! You don't need this card. I would hazard to say that no one in their right mind would play this card unless they were a child and they won a singular game with it. Ever notice that's all it took for bad cards to stay in your childhood deck? Magic Cylinder won me a game. I can't take it out of my deck. It's one of my best cards. Hey, ever wanted to mess with numbers even more? Well, this card is definitely something you don't want to tech. Memories of Courage is a normal trap card that lets you target a number with no materials you control that has battled a number the opponent controls with no materials this turn. Okay, your number will gain 500 attack for each number monster in both graveyards. Okay. As well, this turn your number is free from battle destruction, and if it didn't inflict battle damage to your opponent somehow, after destroying their monster, it makes a second attack that turn. So in essence, your best bet is smashing a number with no materials specifically into your opponent's number with no materials specifically, and they must have the same attack, or the opponent's number needs to somehow not make them take damage without any materials. And then you get the full effect of this card. It just doesn't go off. There's no reason for it to. It takes way too much setup, and while it does make your monster attack again, that's not enough for jumping through like 8 different hoops. Thank you, Zexal, for making the single most circumstantial cards the franchise has ever seen, as it makes sure I never run out of things to talk about. Ever wanted to play a Bamboozle with slow traps in Duel Link's fickle meta? If so, then here's Amazonas Substitution. This trap card lets you special summon a level 4 or lower Amazonas from hand if another Amazonas was targeted for an attack, while redirecting the attack to that monster. Okay, so this is a nice way to get an effect proc on your Amazonas Chainmaster, or make your opponent take some clean damage from Swordswoman. But even in GX, summoning a monster from hand during the battle phase was not a very good effect. Compare Hero Signal, saw play for many years, to A Hero Emerges, saw no play whatsoever, for example. It can synergize with very few Amazonas cards, one of them being the best one just because it summons, and the ones it does synergize with that you care about start and end at Princess. Not exactly the best piece of support. Let's get Legendary Duelists again so we can bring this out, but also it's a field spell and has 15 other effects. Oh sweet! Now we get to dive into Crystal Beast support cards. Thank God! There's plenty to rip apart from them in GX, because with great screen time comes even greater pack filler. But the worst card Jesse plays has to be Amber Crystal Circle. You see, this trap can only be used if Amber Mammoth, aka one of the 5 useless crystal beasts, unless you want to play Rainbow Dragon because the art is too good to not see a summon, right? Is targeted for an attack. All you get is Amber Mammoth getting the stats of all crystal beasts on the field added to his own until the end phase. Okay, so I can just focus on doing actual crystal beast plays, or make a big board, hope they attack and it redirects to Mammoth, and flip a trap to buff Mammoth. Okay? This isn't even what crystal beasts are meant to do, mainly because... Wait, what are crystal beasts supposed to do? They have no way to make a large board consistently at all, so it isn't this, but answering what they're intended to do is still kind of a tough question. Back to Amber Crystal Circle. It would be alright if it could work with any crystal beast, especially since Crystal Beast Sapphire Pegasus has a pretty decent amount of attack and is the best crystal beast by a country mile. And it would be good if Amber Mammoth gained the attack of every crystal beast on the field spell and trap card zones. Or hell, maybe every single crystal beast in the graveyard. We can go nuts. The archetype isn't even close to relevant, and Amber Mammoth is bad even in that context, so we might as well just slam our balls to the wall and bring back the Ice Age entirely. Maybe then he'll be happy. Alright, what is it with horrible equip spells? Come on, GX, you got some splaining to do. It's almost like they were writing a damn college paper more than a card game show for children, with where their priorities lie in the writing sometimes. Some turned out well, though. Like with the Elemental Hero cards, run by everyone's favorite Karibo head, Jaden Yuki. Or Yuki Judai, if you're the kind of person who corrects people online for using a correct name that isn't your preferred one because that means you're an objectively superior human being with 200 IQ. While some are neat, like Wild Half and Spark Blaster, which are, by neat I mean terrible, but I mean at least they're fun, Mudmax is not even a part of that category. To start, it equips only a Clayman for a staggering 300-point attack gain, which is useless, as Clayman is already the strongest card ever made, and decides to keep the 20 zeros after his 800 attack hidden so people don't use him everywhere and destroy relationships. Don't worry if you get attacked, you can send the spell to the graveyard to negate an attack and summon a level 4 lower elemental hero from your hand. As much as I wanted to take this off the list for allowing you the absolutely godlike play of having 2 Claymen on the board and immediately winning whatever YCS you did this in, it goes against the idea of Clayman as a character. Clayman is a perfectly statted beast, and for that he will never die, so why would I ever want to negate an attack from my opponent? They are sacrificing themselves upon the Clayman, and I am not the one with the power to decide this outcome. It is all up to Clayman. Clayman says this card is awful, and I am forced to agree with him. If I know anything about Trickstars, it's that the deck has 2 general reactions from those facing it. Either it's, let me discard this fluff ball and stop you right there, kid, or, did this son of a bitch just fucking troll-lock me?! Did I get Protector of the Sanctuaried by Trickstars? Thanks, Konami! Delinquent Duo was so fair we basically put it 3 times on a 2-card combo! It's all value! Whew! Seriously though, Trickstar players better run Protector of the Sanctuary. People will legit punch you for pulling this off against them. I would know. After 1 locals, I can now dodge hands like I'm Neo just from this deck, and I won through disqualifications alone. Trickstar Treat will not allow you to do this in any way, shape, or form. Trickstar Treat is a continuous trap that gives itself a Trickstar counter on activation, that also lets you put another counter on it to set a Trickstar trap directly from hand that can be used the same turn it was set. However, there is a catch. When it gets 2 or more Trickstar counters, it dies at the end phase. And when it dies, you take 1,000 damage for each counter on the card. So you can set on the opponent's turn, use it the same turn, and then at the same time take 2,000 damage minimum at the end phase you use it. Alternatively, and I know this is a wacky idea for people with mania, but hear me out. You can actually just set the trap card on your own turn! You get the good thing without the bad thing. That's like best idea ever! Glad I have big brain to know this is good and that card bad. I make art for my fridge and mommy still loves them. But seriously, no, this card is worse than not playing it. Damn near 100% of the time. Any use of this card could be filled by 20 other cards in a much less depressing way. Shoo. Get out. We're going to the next card. Oh boy, back when I was hosting a tournament for every single anime character that mattered to go head-to-head against each other in a 128-person tournament, this was a card that even after drawing it once, I realized it was something more special than anything else I had seen up to that point. It is the almighty Urban Demise, also known as Detroit in the OCG. You see, none of you can withstand the overwhelming girth of this card. This trap card has the power to buff a Destiny hero you control when an opponent's monster declares an attack. It buffs for 100 attack. If we convert that to Magic the Gathering, then it's absurd. But here it's kind of the worst cards you could possibly think of that doesn't just straight up murder you. With it, you can trigger D-Hero Dystopia's effects for a quick pop to get rid of an annoying card, I guess? So when making those new D-Hero decks thanks to Dark Neostorm, make sure to tech in the ultimate power of Urban Demise to spice that deck up alongside the power of Vion, Malicious, Dominate Guy, and Drill Dark. It'll be the better card than their new field spell. I mean, what is that? Future Fusion. What are we, competent? Let's get that 100 attack buff, write home about how much Aster got screwed over in Arc 5, then we can all sing Kumbaya around the campfire. This card is literally 1/7 the power of Rush Recklessly. Go to sleep with that in your mind. Strolling down memory lane, it's one of the worst synchros ever created. Card at the top of the screen. Assault Blackwing Kunisada the White Rainbow is a level 3 synchro that can recycle any level 3 or lower Blackwing from graveyard to hand, and gives stat buffs for the attack of that target till the end of the opponent's next end phase. Despite being able to get back Kalut, Gale, Steam, Orochi, Blizzard, to say just a few of the options, and probably all the good ones, to be honest with you. It ruins all sense of the word consistency by making you lose your battle phase for the turn you use it. AKA the effect is actually, you can add back one level 3 or lower Blackwing, skip your battle phase. If you think that this is worth a battle phase restriction, let's talk about the card Against the Wind, a real-life card from Raging Battle. Did anyone actually play this card competitively? No. It does the same thing, but only damages you, which is much less significant than skipping your battle phase, and still no one played it. And also it can add back any other Blackwing that is level 4 or higher as well. This kind of effect is just not something Blackwings need, since they can all spam themselves out and search and all that jazz well enough anyway, to the point that this would be a completely superfluous piece of... You know, talking about bad support for Blackwings is kind of a can of worms I don't think I want to even take a peek into, let alone open. Right, it might be a Pandora's box sort of deal. I don't want any of that. Moving on. Whoo boy! GOUKI support! And by that, we don't just mean literally any warrior card in existence being smashed into GOUKI decks like they had a horrific car crash crossed with Stockholm Syndrome. One of the cards from that one-time shift in playstyle with Go as a heal was GOUKI Dark Mask, and I regret even saying its name. You see, this is an equipped spell meant only for GOUKIs. Sounds odd, but has some Isolde synergy, so maybe that's enough? The card just has to be better than Phoenix Blade, so that's not the highest bar in the world to clear. It gives GOUKI monsters destruction protection once per turn, as well as dealing 500 damage if the equipped monster uses its effect. Okay, sounds mediocre on a bad day, but it could work for something. Except there's one small, insignificant detail. Let's just, let me, what is it called? Let me... Oh yeah, it says, you can't link summon! You know, the entire point of GOUKIs as a deck? When I say these cards disrespect where the archetype came from, pulling up the roots to plant the stem in the ground and all that, Dark Mask is the card that exemplifies this the most. In wrestling, the term to go heel means to be the bad guy, yes, but we didn't mean to be worse at everything you were already doing. This card single-handedly reenacts the curtain call within Yu-Gi-Oh! With GOUKIs being Triple H. Alright, you got lower card fights and you'll probably do something in like half a decade, but your career is over for the time being, GOUKI. Also, speaking of Triple H, did you see that he ripped out Batista's nose ring at WrestleMania? I just wanted to bring that up. So far, we have seen various attack buffs that no one with half a skull cares about in their meta deck past 2007. Cards that help gimmicks at best, and yet still at a cost. Cards that have no payoff at massive costs. And cards that ruin the core ideals of the deck they're trying to support. Well, how about doing your job too well, like mopping the floor of your high-rise building with such intensity that you destroy the entire building? Welcome back, Infernity Pawn. He's a returning monster from Worst Monsters, and I still don't know if I'll ever stop having to tell people in the comments that yes, this card is legitimately awful. Infernity Pawn keeps you from drawing during the draw phase while he is in the graveyard, but only if you emptied your hand entirely. Nothing more to say, as this is just as bad to play as it would be looked at for extended periods of time. It's like saying that Infernities need no hand, so I'll let my opponent Yada-lock me without the damage. The only way to get this thing out of the graveyard is through banishing or getting it back to the hand. And somehow I highly doubt your opponent's gonna be a pal and waste Called by the Grave on Infernity Pawn just to kind of give you a homie stock. I know, Infernity Pawn is on the anime ban list, and that must mean it must be good in real life, which is how my lists are determined, right? Wrong. It's banned because of anime-only combos and complete degeneracy that cannot be replicated under any circumstances in real life with any sort of consistency that would necessitate it being on the list. The card sucks. It will continue to suck until this is made a win condition by some crazy card or cards. Mark my words, the I have no play whatsoever deck is gonna destroy worlds. I know it.